Okay, boys and girls, we're going to review for just a minute. And yesterday's lesson, which was lesson 5, was classifying rational numbers, which we talked about in that lesson, about terminating decimals and repeating decimals. Well, today's lesson is going to be lesson 6, and it's entitled Compare and Order Rational Numbers. Now let's talk about rational numbers for just a minute. Let's review that. Rational numbers were any number that can be expressed as a fraction, if you'll remember that, okay? So that meant like our mixed numbers, our decimal numbers, all of those were expressed as, or could be expressed as, a fraction. So we're gonna work on comparing and ordering those, okay? Now we did some of this in the 5th grade. We did compare decimals, and we ordered decimals, and we compared fractions, and we ordered fractions. But now remember, we're doing negatives and positives now. So we're going to compare and order negative numbers, okay, and positive numbers together. All right, so let's get started. Miss Lane's going to start off with an example, kind of show you how this works. All right, so number 1. Okay, let's say that we have the decimal number, negative 1.2, and we're going to compare that to a 0.8. Now, if you look at those two numbers, you know that they both are already in decimal form, okay? Because here's the deal. If one's in a decimal and one's in a fraction, you know you can't compare it like that. So on this example, they were already both in decimal form, so you should be able to work it. Now, you know the rule by now with a negative and a positive that a positive number will always be larger than a negative. So if you look at this example, you really don't have to put this one on a number line. Because due to the fact that they're both decimals, and this one's negative and this one's positive, you automatically should know that 0.8 or 8/10 is going to be larger than a negative 1 2/10. Okay? So that one's pretty easy. Now, you know as we go along, we're going to get harder. All right, so let's take a look at number 2. And let's say that you had a negative 1.40. And you were comparing that to a negative 1.25. Now this one's a little bit harder because if you notice, okay, they are both in decimal form, but they're both negatives. So you don't know the answer immediately because one of them is not positive, okay? So Miss Lane's going to put this on a number line, and Miss Lane likes to always think of these numbers as money because it's easier for me when I go to put it on a number line. So let me draw a number line over here. And there's going to be my 0. And then if I'm a negative $1.25, I'm going to say I'd be about right there. And then a negative $1.40 if I was to put that on a number line. And if you notice, guys, and I keep telling you this, the closer you are to 0 on the negative side, the larger you are. The further you get from 0 on the negative side, the smaller you are. Now guys, you know that is the opposite of what's on the positive side. Because the closer we are to 0 on this side, we're smaller. But the farther we go down the number line, the bigger we get on the positive side. So in this example, if you notice, $1.25 is closer to 0. So therefore, he will be larger. Okay? All right, let's try another one. I'm going to make this one a little bit harder. Now let's look at this with fractions. So let's say that you have a negative 3/8, and you're wanting to compare that to a negative 5/16. Okay, well, if you look at that, now here's my problem. I don't know where that would go on a number line. Okay? Well, the problem is, the denominators are not the same. So you wouldn't know where it would go on a number line. And I don't know who's bigger or smaller because they're both negative. So that's not going to help me out. So what I'm going to do is what I learned in 5th grade, and that is to get the denominators the same. So I'm going to take my 2 fractions, come over to the side like I showed you to do in 5th grade. The new denominator, of course, would be 16. All right, and 8 times what is 16? 2. 3 times 2 is 6. So you just made an equivalent fraction for negative 3/8. His new name now is a negative 6 over 16. Okay, 16 times 1, 5 times 1, which is 5 over 16. A negative 5 over 16. So that one did not change. But at least now they both have the same denominator. So when I draw my number line, I'm able to put those on the number line correctly. Now, if you think about this, you could say that's a negative 5 and that's a negative 6. So when you go to put it on the number line, again, I say this. The closer you are to 0 on the negative side, the larger you are. So if you put negative 5/16 there and negative 6/16 here, you notice that the negative 5 over 16 would be larger. But I wouldn't know that until I get the denominators the same. And that is a skill that you did learn in the 5th grade. All right, let's take a look at another one. We're going to go a little bit harder. Okay, now we're going to have a decimal, and we're going to compare that to a fraction. Well, here's the problem. They're both negatives, so that doesn't help me. Now, we have one that's a decimal and one that's a fraction. So you know from 5th grade that you cannot work that like that. So my suggestion, because you've already learned it in the previous lesson, is to change that fraction to a decimal. And you notice, this one has 2 numbers behind the decimal. So when you divide this, you need 2 numbers behind the decimal. Okay? So let's do it. That says 8 divided by 15. We're going to put our decimal. We're going to put our 0. In fact, I'm going to put another 0 because I want 2 numbers behind the decimal. I'm going to bring it up. Can't go into 8. Goes into 80 5 times, which is going to give me 75. I subtract. I get 5. Bring down the 0. 15 goes into 50 3 times, which makes that 45, which then you are left with a remainder of 5, but that doesn't matter because you've changed that to show that this is the same thing as a negative 0.53. Okay? So now when you go to put that on a number line, you've got 51 cents and you got 53 cents, but they're negative. So you know that the negative 51 cents will be closer to 0 and the negative 53 cents will be farther from 0. And if you know that, then you know that the 51 hundredths is larger, the negative 51 hundredths. So that would be the answer on that one. Okay? All right, so now we're going to take it up a lot. Okay, so let Miss Lane erase some of this because now that's comparing them, telling me who's larger, who's smaller, but now we're actually going to get them in order, okay, which is a little bit more work. All right, so let's put number 5, and we're going to get these in order from least to greatest. Least to greatest. And again, you did this in the 5th grade. You just didn't do it with negatives and positive numbers. Well, you did do it with positive numbers. You just didn't do it with negative and positives at the same time. All right, so here are the numbers that I want you to get in order from least to greatest. A negative 3 1/3. A positive 3.3. A negative 3 3/4. And a positive 3.5. All right, so let's take a look at this. Okay, well, first of all, you should know that the 2 positive numbers are going to be larger than the 2 negatives. But I still don't know what order to put these in, and the reason why is because I've got fractions and I've got decimals. So what Miss Lane's going to do is I'm going to have you change the fractional part into a decimal. So let's start off with this one right here. All right, I'm just going to take the 1/3, because I'm not going to touch the negative 3 right now. And I'm going to divide 1 divided by 3. Let me go into my decimal 0. Okay, I'm going to bring that up. Can't go in. Goes into 10 3 times, which is 9. Subtract. You get 1. Bring down. You get 10. How many times will 3 go into 10? 3. 3 times 3, 9. Subtract. Looks to me like you're going to get 1. You can do another 0. Bring it down. Obviously, I can see what's happening. 3 goes into 10 3 times. That's 9. You're going to get another remainder of 1. So, I can look at that, guys, and tell you that that answer would be a negative 3, because I'm going to put that 3 back in the front, and I'm going to put decimal 3, 3. Now, if I want to make this into money, I'm not going to put the other 3, okay? I know I have 3 3s behind it, but Miss Lane's not going to do that because I want to make it into money, okay? All right, so that's that one. Well, now if I want to make this one into money, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to add a 0 to it. Now, it's in money form. Okay, now I think most of y'all remember this because we did go over this in the 5th grade. I am not actually going to divide 3 by 4 because I know that if you have 4 quarters that make $1, and I have 3 of them, I know that is 75 cents, which would be 0.75. And we did learn that in the 5th grade. So Miss Lane's going to put negative 3.75. But if you didn't know that, you could take the 3 and divide it by 4, and you would have gotten 75 hundredths. And then this one I'm going to make into money, which would be 3.50. Now, Miss Lane is ready to put this on a number line. Okay? So here I go. All right, I'm going to put my 0. And I'm going to take care of my positives first because the positives are always easier. All right, you got $3.30 and you got $3.50. So I'm going to put $3.30 here, $3.50 here. So that takes care of that one. That takes care of that one. Okay? All right, now then, we've got a negative $3.33 and a negative $3.75. Well, again, if you think, who would be closer to 0? The negative 3.33, which is really negative 3 1/3. And then who's farther from 0? Really, the negative 3 3/4. So I've got them on the number line. And you asked me to put them from least to greatest. So that's very easy to do. He would be the least, he would be second, he would be third, and he would be the biggest. So I just found the correct order. Now, boys and girls, that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. It is not a matter of you not knowing how to do it, because I know you know how to do it. It is the fact of you not wanting to do it. So spend the time, take the time to do it, and do it right. Because you're going to have to do this in 6th grade, folks, okay? So you might as well go ahead and learn how to do it now. Okay, let's do one more. One more like that so I can show you one more. Okay, this is going to be example number 6. Okay, again, we're going to go from least to greatest. Okay, least to greatest. And let me give you the numbers. All right, we got a 2.1 with the bar. You remember that the bar means that that is the same thing as saying 2.11111, right? Okay, so that's 2.1 with the bar, and it's positive. Then you've got a negative 2.1. Then you have a positive 2 1/11. And then you just got a negative 2. So these are the numbers that we are fixing to put in order from least to greatest. And again, guys, all of these numbers are called rational numbers because everything up here can be expressed as a fraction. Even your negative 2, you could put it over 1 and it would be expressed as a fraction. Okay? So these are called rational numbers. All right, so here we go. Okay, on this one, here's what Miss Lane's going to write because I want to make them into money. You know Miss Lane, she always tells you to make those decimals into money. So if I'm going to make this into money, that is going to be 2.11, $2.11, okay? Then on this one, that's going to be a negative 2.10 to make that money. Okay, this one, I don't know what this one is because I don't know what 1 divided by 11 is. So Miss Lane's going to come over to the side. I'm not going to forget about my 2 in front. But I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do 1 divided by 11. And again, I want to make it into money, so I'm going to put 2 behind the decimal. Okay, can't go in. Can't go into 10, but remember, we got to put a 0. We can't put an X after we start it behind the decimal. Whoa, how many times is 11 going to go into 100? 9 times, which gives me 99. So that's going to give me a remainder of 1, which I don't care because I've got 2 numbers behind the decimal. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put my 2 in the front, and then I'm going to put 0.09. So that's $2.09. Okay, and then on this -2, I'm going to go -2, decimal, 0, 0. So I'll say $2. So let's put that on a number line, see what it looks like. So here we go. Again, Miss Lane's going to take care of the positive numbers first. You got $2.09, you got $2.11. I know that $2.09 will be here, $2.11 will be there. Okay, so now you're looking at $2 and $2.10, but they are negative. So again, you're going to put $2 there, the -$2, and then you're going to put -$2.10. Because again, the rule is the closer you are to 0 on the negative side, the larger you are. Okay? Obviously, he is smaller because you're going further below 0. Okay? Alright, so we want an order from least to greatest. So we got it. There's least, next, next, and he is the greatest. And that would be the correct order for that problem. Okay, so you have all that in your notes. I've given you all the examples in your notes for you to go back and look at, or you can rewatch the YouTube video if you get stuck on something under your independent practice. So let's take a look at the guided practice. Okay, so here's what Miss Lane did. All right, on number 1, if you notice, you have a positive 9.7 and a negative 10.3. Well, Miss Lane did not work anything out. I didn't put it on a number line because I know the rule. Positive is always bigger. So I made my 9.7 larger than the negative 10.3. Then on number 2, I was lucky. They both had an 8 as their denominator. And then I know the positive wins out over the negative, so I know 5/8 is larger. Then Miss Lane came here and I said, you know what? I'm going to say that and then I'm going to write it because I know how to write that as a fraction or a mixed number, 6 7/10. Negative 6 7/10, negative 6 7/10. Those are equivalent. Then Miss Lane came here and I saw the -5/6 and I said, oh, that's a fraction, that's a decimal. That's not going to work, so I'm going to change it. So that's exactly what I did. I changed my fraction into a decimal. It got me a negative 0.83. I came down here, put it on the number line, and I know that negative 83 cents is closer to 0 and negative 94 cents is farther from 0. So therefore, I knew that the -5/6 was larger. Now let me tell you about those 2 problems right there. I just did those on the board for you and I put them in your notes because Miss Lane did not have enough room to do it there. Okay? And then the last one. Number 7, they wanted me to get the numbers in order from least to greatest. And lucky me, they were already in decimal form. So Miss Lane just thought of them as money. I put them on the number line. I looked at my number line and put them from least to greatest. Okay, so there's the guided practice that you can look at. Now, let's talk about the independent practice on the work that you're going to get to do. All right, so let's look at number 1. You're going to get lucky on this one. They already have the same denominator, and one's positive and one's negative, so I really don't need any work on that. Now, let's look at number 2. Number 2, you're going to have to change that fractional part into a decimal so that you can compare them because they're both negatives. You're going to need to change that fraction into a decimal and then compare them because they're both negatives. And then number 4, you're going to need to change the 2/7, write that as a decimal with your -9 in front. And you're going to have to work it out because they're both negatives. And folks, you really need to put those on a number line because even though you've changed it to a decimal, sometimes it's still hard for you to understand it without putting it on a number line. Then on number 5 and number 6, I gave you 2 to try on your own, and I want you to get them from least to greatest. Again, you're going to have to change the fractions to decimals on both of those. And again, I would make those into money, make them into money, and then put them on your number line, and then put down the correct order. Probably going to need a scratch sheet of paper for that, folks, or on the back. Okay, and then the last one. It says they want them in order from least to greatest. Looks to me like you have fractions, fractions, decimals, decimals. So, of course, you're going to have to first change them to decimals. Okay? Then put them on a number line and get them in the correct order. Okay? All right, so that completes lesson 6. Now, I will say this. You do have a lesson 7, and it's over the coordinate grid and the different quadrants. And, of course, in the 5th grade, we only studied quadrant 1, but now I'm going to go into all of the quadrants for 6th grade. So make sure you tune in to watch lesson 7, and that will be your final lesson. Thank you.